Hello, dear ones. Welcome to the Indigo Rose Lounge. I'm your host, Alyce Dylan. Today, I wanted to touch on a subject that I've covered already, but I wanted to refresh it because it really seems like times are moving fast. The readiness, the appropriateness of the spiritually perceptive in this new world, in the world moving forward. That's a very long title. I'll have to really reduce that. It comes from an extract that I overheard this morning. So we know, hopefully, we know who Palantir is, right? Palantir, depending on whether you're looking at arms, or whether you're looking at intelligence or IT, Palantir is one of those frontline companies that deals with arms and arms development. And throughout the history of the world, this industry tends to be on the front line of development. A lot of money will go into war that won't really be applied to human beings till a decade or two later. So the arms industry is usually quite ahead of the time. And this is a historical fact. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. In fact, it's quite upside down. But it is the way humanity has operated historically. So the industry concerned with war is usually the one that's on the front line of new development and new intelligence and new thinking. So the head of Palantir coming out and saying something is normally quite ahead of the curve. And something he said was interesting. He said that, and normally I don't follow these kinds of things. A friend of mine does. And so they were telling me this headline, that the head of Palantir says that the future of humanity, you want to be ready for what's coming. You either need to be a craftsman, so a person who's good with working with the hands or good at developing tangible stuff, or you need to be neurodivergent, which of course is what they call us. Either we're undiagnosed ADHD or, anywhere on the system. And that's interesting because when I was saying this only 2 years ago, that we were on the leading edge of humanity's development. And so when the book came out, one of the pieces of feedback I got was curiosity at that. Do you really think that the spiritually perceptive, the sixth sense, you really think that, we have a place in this new world? We are this new world. We are on the leading edge of the evolution of mankind. And we are what's required for this next stage in humanity. And it's taken us almost 200 years to get here. You can imagine when all of these things happened about 200 years ago, when the ceiling was raised on on the capacity of the human experience. The initial people, the first people in line there, would have just really thought they were going nuts, or they would have been institutionalized, or they would have been medicated. And unless they were in a very accepting environment, the first iteration of spiritually perceptive individuals, whether they were telepathic, clairvoyant, mediumist, whatever, they would have been real icebreakers and they would have suffered for it. They might have spent their whole lives knowing far more, and they said, but being quiet about it. Or if they were born into a native tribe somewhere, it would have been a little more acceptable. But anyone in the Western world would either have been medicated or in some way poo-pooed or called insane. And so here now we have, after these 200 years, and in our lifetimes, we felt alone. We felt like we are out here on a limb. We felt like we're isolated. And we really are not. And that's the point that I think I'm getting to, is that even though my conclusions in all of this may have seemed really out there 2 years ago, now we have the head of Palantir effectively saying the same thing. Because of everything that's happening in the world of AI, nobody will know what's true. Nobody will know. You'll have visual evidence of whatever anybody wants to say. And we're already there. People are saying the most bizarre things. Common sense is no longer common. Just ordinary discourse seems to be so far off the rails. And here we are in the middle of it. If we're still battling with our extrasensory perception, then we're maybe it's all too much. The world's gone mad. We don't quite know what we're dealing with. And then, and then. And so this is why I really try to focus on you just get a handle on you. Don't worry about the world. The world is going to do what the world's going to do. For now, really the most important thing for all of us, for all the indigo adults, for all the spiritually perceptive people to do is get a handle on you. What you do, who you are, is really going to be important in the next phase of humanity. It's going to be important to guide what humanity does, what changes we make. Everything that you have the capacity within yourself to do is going to be vitally important. So while the world goes a little bit loopy and all of this is so crazy, take time out. Take time out to figure you out. You're part of the leading edge of the evolution of humanity. You have access to information that humanity has never had access to before. When we used to speak of it in terms of 5 and 6 senses, we are the first rollout. We're the first open roller of the 6th sense. Now, they've tried to co-opt that 6th sense word, so we've had to shift it to the spiritually perceptive. That you are the first generation of people that are allowed to be spiritually perceptive and not locked up. And they will try to medicate you, but if you just refuse that, there are tools and practices and meditations and all sorts of information out there now on how to buffer, how to receive, how to translate, how to harness these abilities to support your process, to have your best human experience. And that's really where we are as the indigos. No, we're not out in society creating frameworks for the future of humanity yet, because we're still in the process of the old era being pulled down. So the old era is crumbling. The old era and all the incongruencies and all the dishonesties of the old era are still being pulled out of the cupboards. All of that is still being unearthed. And the world needs to go through that. This is a cleansing. This is a time of revelation in the sense of veils are coming off. You know, now we see things not for what they pretend to be, but for what they actually are. And that's going on very much in the physical world. Physical world is battling with so many things. And if we can, as a community of intuitives, of empaths, of highly sensitive people, all of us so-called neurodivergents. And that's why I don't like these labels, because I have an objection to people who are not us labeling us. I want us to give ourselves our own name. I want us to say we are this, because we have been labeled for so long. And they keep flipping the labels. I mean, at one stage we were the 6th sense. Now, I mean, suddenly it was, oh no, that's just undiagnosed ADHD, it's neurodivergent, which at the time when that was said was a real negative. It's like, yeah, these people are a bit nuts and they have a limited capacity. So all the labels that we've been given have seemed to belittle or negate our existence. And I don't believe that's just. I don't believe that's true at all. I believe we are on the leading edge of the evolution of humanity. And I believe it will be up to us to guide humanity going forward into a place of kindness and beauty. And we want to do that because that's the world we want to live in. Yeah. And we are from all walks of life. There are spiritually perceptive individuals from the heights of armies and generals, right through to people that we meet every day on the street. We're everywhere. And if we can get ourselves healed, whole, and confident, then we can harness our spiritual perception to truly know truth when we see it and to guide humanity into what is right and what is good for everybody. Anyway, little side note there, the CEO of Palantir coming out and saying, that we are the future of humanity. Well, us and the carpenters and the tradespeople, which is a lot of us are carpenters and tradespeople because that's a form of alpha meditation. A lot of indigos find peace there. So, just a little cheeky note for today. Someone out there actually gets it. So, go and have a wonderful day, however much you've got left of it, and just remember to love always.